My daughter said her new friend wanted to show her something in the dark, and when I asked what the friend looked like, she said, "Like you." But wrong. That was 3 nights into our camping trip near Chaco Canyon, and I should have packed up right then. But I didn't. I told myself Emma was 8 years old, that kids say weird things, that she probably just had a nightmare. I told myself a lot of things that week that turned out to be lies I needed to believe. Let me back up. It was early October of 2019 when I decided Emma and I needed this trip. Her mother and I had finalized the divorce that summer, and Emma had been quiet ever since. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you realize your kid is processing something way too heavy for an 8-year-old. She'd stopped drawing pictures, stopped asking questions, just sat on the couch watching cartoons with these blank eyes that made my chest hurt every time I looked at her. My therapist said quality time in nature might help. No screens, no distractions, just father-daughter bonding. She specifically suggested somewhere remote, somewhere Emma could feel free to be loud and wild and messy without worrying about upsetting anyone, somewhere we could both disconnect from the wreckage of our family and just breathe. So I booked a campsite in New Mexico, about 15 miles outside of Nageezi, right on the edge of the Navajo Nation. The campground was called Cottonwood Flats, and it was one of those bare bones operations. Pit toilets, fire rings, and not much else. $5 a night. First come, first serve. The kind of place that doesn't even have a website, just a phone number on a ranger station bulletin board. The drive from Denver took us about 7 hours. Emma slept most of the way, curled up in the passenger seat with her stuffed elephant. When she was awake, she'd ask small questions. Will there be other kids there? And can we see the stars? And is Mom going to call us? That last one broke my heart. We might not have cell service, honey, I told her. But Mom knows we're safe, and we'll call her as soon as we get back. Okay. Emma nodded and went back to looking out the window. We arrived at the ranger station around 4 in the afternoon. The building was a small adobe structure with a green Park Service sign out front that had seen better days. Inside, the office was cramped and dim, decorated with topographic maps and wildlife posters that looked like they'd been hanging since the 80s. Behind the desk sat a Navajo woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a traditional bun. Her name tag read Mrs. Yazzie. She looked at my permit, looked at Emma and the truck through the window, then looked back at me. Just you and the little one? She asked. Yes, ma'am. Just us. How long? 5 nights. Maybe 6 if the weather holds. Mrs. Yazzie studied me for a long moment. You been camping out here before? No, ma'am. First time in this area. She pulled out a laminated card from a drawer and slid it across the desk. Emergency contact numbers, local hospital, sheriff's department, search and rescue. You keeping her close at night? She asked, tapping the card with one weathered finger. I laughed a little. Of course. Bear country, right? Mrs. Yazzie's expression didn't change, didn't even flicker. Sure. Bear country. She handed me the permit and a small paper map of the campground. You're in Site 7. It's the farthest one back, right against the tree line. Most secluded spot we got. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Yeah. She paused. Listen, you see anything weird, you call. Don't wait. Don't investigate. Just call. I thanked her and headed back to the truck, thinking she was just being overly cautious. Small-town ranger, probably bored, wanted to make sure I knew she was serious about safety protocols. I get it. The campground was nearly empty when we pulled in. Just us and maybe 2 other campsites occupied, both far enough away that we couldn't see them through the juniper and sage. Perfect privacy. Site 7 was tucked back against a small rise, with twisted juniper trees forming a natural windbreak on 3 sides. The fire ring was old, blackened stones that had seen 1,000 campfires. Someone had left a neat stack of firewood under a tarp nearby. "This is cool," Emma said, climbing out of the truck. She actually smiled. First real smile I'd seen in weeks. We spent the rest of the daylight setting up camp. I taught Emma how to stake a tent properly, how to hang our food from the bear pole, how to arrange our gear so everything was accessible but organized. She helped me gather kindling for the fire and arrange stones around the ring. Normal stuff. Good stuff. Father-daughter stuff that felt like maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. That first night was perfect. We roasted hot dogs over the fire and Emma burned 3 marshmallows in a row trying to get them golden brown. We talked about constellations and I showed her how to find the North Star. She told me about her best friend Mia at school and how Mia's parents were also divorced and how that made it easier somehow, knowing she wasn't the only one. "Do you think you and Mom will ever get back together?" she asked, staring into the fire. I'd been dreading that question. "No, honey. I don't think so. Why not? Sometimes people are better friends than they are married. Your mom and I, we love you more than anything in the world, but we weren't making each other happy anymore, and we decided it was better to be apart and happy than together and sad." Emma thought about this for a while. "I think I get it," she finally said. "I'm still sad, though." "Me too, sweetheart." "Me too." We went to bed around 9. Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the drive and the fresh air. I stayed awake a little longer, listening to the fire pop and crackle, watching the stars wheel overhead. The desert at night is a special kind of quiet. Not silent exactly, but peaceful. Wind in the sage. Distant coyotes. The tick of cooling metal from the truck engine. I felt good. Like maybe this was exactly what we needed. The second day was even better. We hiked a slot canyon about 3 miles from camp, following a trail Mrs. Yazzie had circled on our map. The canyon walls were striated red and orange, smooth from ancient water erosion. Emma found lizards and collected interesting rocks and asked a million questions about geology that I couldn't answer. We ate lunch sitting on warm sandstone, sharing a bag of trail mix and watching ravens circle overhead. On the way back, we passed the other 2 occupied campsites. One had a couple in their 20s with a golden retriever. We waved. They waved back. The other site looked abandoned. Tent still up, but no people around. No vehicles. Probably out hiking. "Maybe they have kids," Emma said hopefully. "Maybe I can make a friend. Maybe," I said, though I kind of doubted it. That evening, we played cards by firelight, and Emma beat me at Go Fish 4 times in a row. She was getting sleepy around 8:30, rubbing her eyes and yawning between hands. "All right, kiddo. Bedtime," I said. "Can I stay up a little longer? Please? 15 more minutes." Then teeth brushing and tent time. She nodded and we sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire. That's when I first felt it. That prickling sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I looked around our campsite. Nothing. Just dancing firelight and shadows and the dark line of juniper trees about 30 feet away. But the feeling persisted. "Dad?" Emma said quietly. "Yeah? Do you feel like someone's watching us?" My stomach tightened. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged. "I don't know. It just feels like when Mom used to watch me from the kitchen while I played in the backyard. That feeling." I forced a smile. "It's just the desert, honey. Makes you feel small. Come on. Let's get ready for bed." I walked the perimeter of our camp with my flashlight before we turned in, checking for tracks or signs of animals. Nothing unusual. Just our footprints and tire marks and the expected desert debris. But that watched feeling never quite went away. We brushed teeth using water from our jug and climbed into the tent. Emma snuggled into her sleeping bag with her elephant and was asleep in minutes. I lay awake longer, listening. The coyotes seemed closer tonight, and once, I could have sworn I heard footsteps in the gravel, soft and shuffling, circling our campsite just beyond the firelight. I told myself it was an animal, a deer, maybe a javelina, but animals don't circle. Not like that. Not with such deliberate, measured steps. I must have eventually fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, Emma was shaking my shoulder. "Dad," she whispered. "Dad, wake up." I bolted upright in my sleeping bag, instantly alert, that parent instinct kicking in hard. "What's wrong? You okay?" "I made a friend," she said. She was smiling, actually smiling in the dark of the tent at. I checked my watch, 2:17 in the morning. My blood went cold. "Emma, there's nobody else here." "Yes, there is. Her name is Sarah. She said she's been watching us and wanted to say hi." I fumbled for my flashlight and unzipped the tent, shining the beam across our campsite. Nothing. Just our fire ring with dying embers casting a faint orange glow, our cooler hanging from the bare pole, and empty desert stretching into darkness on all sides. "Honey, there's no one out here. You must have been dreaming." Emma frowned. I wasn't dreaming. She was right there. She pointed to the edge of our firelight, where the shadows pooled thick between two juniper bushes. She was standing right there and she waved at me. "How did you see her?" "You were in the tent. I went out to pee. I didn't want to wake you up. I used the bathroom by myself, and when I came back, she was there." My heart rate kicked up several notches. "Emma, you're not supposed to leave the tent alone at night. We talked about this." "I know, but I really had to go and you were sleeping so hard. I don't care. You wake me up. Every time. Understand?" She nodded, looking guilty. "I'm sorry." I took a breath, trying to calm down. "It's okay. I'm not mad. Let's just try to get some more sleep. All right? And if you need anything at all, you wake me up." "Okay." She paused. "But Sarah was real, Dad. She was really there. Come on, back to sleep," I said, zipping the tent. "If you see anyone tomorrow during the day, we'll say hi together. Okay?" She nodded and curled back into her sleeping bag, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. And honestly, neither was I. I stayed awake for another hour, listening. Nothing. Just whined and the occasional yip of a distant coyote. But that feeling of being watched never went away. If anything, it got stronger, like something just beyond the firelight was waiting, watching, patient. The next morning, I checked the area where Emma said she'd seen her friend. No footprints, no signs anyone had been there. I told myself she'd been sleepwalking, or half asleep and confused, or maybe saw a deer and her tired brain interpreted it as a person. Kids see things that aren't there sometimes, especially in unfamiliar places. It's normal. But when we went on our morning hike, Emma talked about Sarah non-stop. "She has long black hair," Emma said, hopping from rock to rock on the trail. "And she's really tall. Like, taller than you even." "Oh yeah? What was she wearing?" Old clothes, like from the museum. You know that field trip we took to the history place? She was wearing stuff like that, like old Native American clothes. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. We were camping on the edge of the Navajo Nation. If someone in traditional clothing was watching our campsite, that felt significant somehow. Disrespectful maybe. Like we camped somewhere we shouldn't have. "Did she say anything to you?" I asked. Emma nodded enthusiastically. "She said I was special, and she said she knew all the best hiding spots for lizards and secret caves and stuff. She wants to show me." "Show you what?" "The caves. She said there's one nearby that has drawings on the walls from a long time ago." My stomach tightened. "Emma, If anyone ever asks you to go somewhere alone with them, even if they seem nice, what do? She rolled her eyes. I know, Dad. Stranger danger. But Sarah's not a stranger. You just met her last night. Yeah, but she knows us. I stopped walking. What do you mean she knows us? Emma turned around on the trail, squinting up at me in the bright sunlight. She knows your name. She knows we're from Colorado. She knows about Mom and the divorce and everything. Ice water in my veins. Emma, did you tell her those things? No. She just knew. Are you sure? Maybe you mentioned it and forgot? Dad, I didn't tell her. She said she'd been watching us since we got here. She said she watches lots of people who come to camp. I knelt down to Emma's level, hands on her shoulders. Listen to me very carefully. If you see Sarah again, you do not go anywhere with her. You stay with me. You understand? Why? She's nice. Emma, promise me. She could see the fear in my face. Her smile faded. Okay, I promise. We continued our hike, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. When we got back to camp around lunchtime, I walked the perimeter again, wider this time. That's when I found them. Footprints. Bare footprints in the dust about 50 feet from our tent, partially hidden by a juniper bush. They circled our entire campsite in a perfect ring, like someone had been pacing for hours, but they weren't normal footprints. They were elongated, maybe 14 inches long. The toes spread too wide, almost paw-like, and the stride length was wrong. 7, maybe 8 feet between steps. Whatever made these tracks was either impossibly tall or taking huge, deliberate steps. I pulled out my phone to take pictures, then remembered I had no service. I took them anyway. Evidence. Proof I wasn't going crazy. When I got back to camp, Emma was coloring in her book by the tent. Hey kiddo, how about we pack up and go see those Pueblo ruins? Get a hotel with a pool? She looked up, confused. But we have 3 more days. I know, but I was thinking it might be fun to... Is this about Sarah? Emma, you think she's bad, but she's not. She's just lonely. How do you know she's lonely? Emma shrugged. She told me. She said not many people come here anymore. She said she misses when there used to be more people. When did she tell you this? This morning, when you were packing up the tent. My heart stopped. What? She was here this morning. She waved at me from the trees. I waved back. I'd been maybe 20 feet away, taking down the rain fly and folding the tent. I hadn't seen anyone. Hadn't heard anyone. How the hell had someone gotten that close without me noticing? Emma, why didn't you tell me? You said to stay with you. I did. I didn't go to her. I just waved. I started packing our gear with shaking hands. Screw the rest of the trip. Screw bonding time. Something was wrong here, and every instinct I had was screaming to get Emma away from this place. What are you doing? Emma asked. We're leaving. But Dad. I said we're leaving. Now help me pack. She started crying, which broke my heart, but I didn't stop. I threw our sleeping bags in the truck, collapsed the tent in record time, grabbed our cooler and cooking gear. Emma sat on a rock, sobbing, saying I was being mean and Sarah just wanted to be friends. I was strapping down the last of our gear when Emma suddenly stopped crying. Dad, she said quietly. Sarah's here. I spun around. Where? Emma pointed to the tree line about 50 yards away. Right there. She's waving goodbye. I looked. At first I saw nothing. Just juniper and rock and morning shadows. Then something moved. A figure stood between 2 trees, barely visible in the shade. Tall. Way too tall. Maybe 7 feet. Maybe more. It was hard to tell from this distance, but the proportions looked wrong somehow. The limbs seemed too long, the torso too narrow. The head tilted at an angle that made my neck hurt just looking at it, and it was waving. Slowly, deliberately. The hand moving in a mechanical arc, fingers spread wide like a starfish. "Get in the truck, Emma. She just wants to say goodbye. Get in the truck right now." My voice had that tone. The dad voice that means immediate obedience. Emma climbed in the passenger seat. Still sniffling, I started the engine with hands that wouldn't stop shaking and threw the truck in reverse, backing out of the campsite without taking my eyes off the tree line. The figure didn't move, just stood there watching us, that arm still raised in that frozen wave. I turned the truck around and headed down the dirt road toward the exit, checking my rearview mirror every 3 seconds. The figure stayed where it was, watching us leave, until distance and dust obscured my view. We were maybe a mile down the road, bouncing over washboard ruts, when Emma said it. "Dad, why is Sarah in the truck? Ice." Absolute ice flooding my veins. I looked in the rearview mirror. Emma was alone in the passenger seat. "What are you talking about, honey? She's right there." Emma pointed to the empty back seat. "She followed us. She said she's not done playing yet." I pressed the accelerator harder, the truck bouncing violently over the rough road. "Emma, there's nobody there." "Yes, there is. She's sitting right behind you." "Can't you see her?" "Emma, I need you to close your eyes." "Dad, her face is wrong." "What?" "Her face is wrong. It's changing." Emma's voice went high with panic. It looks like you." "What are you talking about?" "She's copying you. She looks like you, but the eyes are wrong and the mouth is too big, and her teeth are wrong. She has too many teeth." "Close your eyes," I shouted. "Close your eyes right now and don't look at it." Emma squeezed her eyes shut and covered her face with her hands, sobbing. I watched the empty back seat in the rearview mirror, and I swear to God I saw something. The air was shimmering, like heat distortion, but it was October and maybe 60 degrees outside. The shimmer had a shape, vaguely human-shaped, sitting in the center of the back seat, and as I watched, something in that shimmer moved, like a head, tilting, like something studying me in the mirror. The main highway was still 12 miles away, 12 miles of empty desert road with my daughter in the passenger seat, and something I couldn't see in the back. "Emma, I need you to sing for me." "What?" "Your favorite song. Sing it as loud as you can, and don't stop until I tell you." "Why, just do it, baby. Please." She started singing Let It Go through her tears, voice shaking but getting louder with each word. I joined her, both of us belting out the lyrics at the top of our lungs. The cab of the truck filled with our overlapping voices, off-key and desperate. In the rearview mirror, the shimmer intensified. It seemed to vibrate, to pulse with agitation. "Keep singing," I shouted. We sang every Disney song we could think of. Frozen, Moana, Tangled, Beauty and the Beast. Emma's voice went hoarse, but she didn't stop. Neither did I. My throat hurt and my chest ached, and I was driving way too fast on a dirt road, but I didn't care. The shimmer in the back seat grew more distinct. I could almost make out features now. A face that looked like mine, but subtly wrong. The eyes too large. The mouth stretched too wide. The neck bent at an impossible angle. And then Emma gasped, "She's mad, Dad. She's really, really mad. Keep singing." We launched into Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid, probably the worst singing performance of that song in human history. But it didn't matter. In the mirror, the shimmer was vibrating violently now, like the air itself was rejecting whatever was trying to exist in our truck. The paved highway came into view. 200 yards, 100, 50. The moment our tires hit asphalt, Emma gasped again. "She's gone," she whispered. She just disappeared. Like she was never there. I didn't stop driving until we reached the first gas station, a rundown place called Dusty's Stop and Go, about 15 miles up the highway. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely work the gas pump. Emma sat in the truck with the doors locked, staring straight ahead with blank eyes. An elderly Navajo man was sitting outside the station in a lawn chair, watching us. He had long gray hair and a traditional bun and wore a turquoise bolo tie. He'd been watching us since we pulled in. He stood slowly and walked over, studying my face. There was recognition there, or maybe resignation. "You came from Cottonwood Flats," he said. Not a question. I nodded, unable to speak. "Your daughter made a friend." Again, not a question. I nodded. He pulled out a pouch of tobacco and some rolling papers, taking his time to prepare a cigarette. His hands were steady. Mine wouldn't stop shaking. That area. "It's been a problem for a long time," he said, lighting up. "Long before it was a campground. Long before the Park Service put up their signs and fire rings. That land. It's between things. Between what's settled and what's wild. Between the reservation and federal land. Between the living world and..." He trailed off, taking a long drag. Some things live in those between places. They watch. They learn. They try to copy what they see, but they always get it wrong somewhere. The voice is a little flat. The walk is a little stiff. The face. He gestured vaguely. "The face doesn't move quite right." "What was it?" I whispered. He looked at me with an expression that was equal parts pity and warning. Lots of names for things like that. Different tribes call them different things. Names have power, though, so I won't say. But I'll tell you what they do. They watch families, especially families with children. They learn the names, the relationships, the routines. They get close by pretending to be friendly, and when the child trusts them enough. He didn't finish the sentence. What happens then? They take them out into the desert, into places people don't come back from. He took another drag. "Your daughter, she had enough sense to notice something was wrong. That saved her. The face was wrong. The teeth were wrong. Most children, they don't notice until it's way too late." She said it followed us. Into the truck. The old man nodded. "They can do that. Stick close to someone they've marked. But they have rules. Old rules that even they can't break. They can't cross certain boundaries. Running water. Asphalt. Sometimes just the property line of consecrated ground. The highway. That's a hard line for them. They can get close, but they can't follow beyond it. Why didn't anyone warn us? Why is that campground even open if this is a known problem?" He smiled sadly. "You think the government listens? We've been trying to get that area closed for 20 years. But it's federal land, not reservation, not our jurisdiction. And every time we report something, they say there's no evidence, just local superstition." He gestured toward the highway leading back toward Chaco. "That Mrs. Yazzie at the station. She tried to warn you, didn't she? In her own way?" I thought back. "She asked if I was keeping my daughter close, and you thought she meant bears." He shook his head. "Mrs. Yazzie knows. She's seen what comes out of those trees, but she can't say it directly. Can't talk about it openly. Taboo. So she warns how she can and hopes people listen. Where is she now? Quit her job 2 days ago. Just walked out. Saw something that finally broke her, I think. She's not the first ranger to leave that station suddenly. I felt sick. There were other families there. We saw 2 other campsites. Empty now, I'd bet. Or they will be soon." He stubbed out a cigarette. "Look, you got lucky. Your daughter got lucky. Take her home. Don't come back. And if she starts talking about Sarah again, If she says Sarah's waiting, or Sarah's patient, or Sarah forgives you for leaving. He met my eyes. You call someone. A medicine man. A priest. Someone who knows how to deal with things like this. Because sometimes they don't give up. Sometimes they wait. He walked back to his lawn chair without another word. I drove straight through to Albuquerque and got a hotel room near the airport. Emma slept for 14 hours straight. When she woke up, she asked for her coloring books and didn't mention Sarah once. It was like her brain had locked the memory away somewhere safe. Some protective mechanism that lets children survive trauma by forgetting it. But I couldn't let it go. 3 days later, back in Denver, I called the ranger station and asked for Mrs. Yazzie. The young guy who answered said she'd retired. Effective immediately, he said. Health reasons. I pressed him for details. He wasn't supposed to talk about it, he said, but, well, another family had camped at Cottonwood Flats the week after us. Family of 4 from Texas. Their 6-year-old daughter wandered off in the night. They found her 2 miles into the desert, barefoot, covered in scratches and cactus spines, hypothermic, dehydrated. When the paramedics examined her, they found her feet were barely cut despite walking miles over sharp rocks and thorns. She kept saying someone named Sarah had been leading her to a cave, that Sarah knew her family, that Sarah had her daddy's face but the eyes were yellow and wouldn't blink right. The girl survived, but she hasn't spoken since. Selective mutism, the doctor said. Trauma response. The ranger station closed Cottonwood Flats permanently after that. Safety concerns was the official reason. The real reason never made it into any report. I tried to file an incident report myself, but the ranger I spoke to was dismissive. Sounds like your daughter had an imaginary friend, sir. Kids do that, especially during stressful times like a divorce. I gave up trying to convince people. What was the point? Either they'd believe me or they'd think I was crazy. Either way, Emma was safe. That's all that mattered. Except, I'm not sure she is safe. Not completely. Emma's 13 now. She doesn't remember much about that trip, or at least she says she doesn't. We've had therapy. Lots of therapy. The therapist thinks Emma experienced some kind of dissociative episode brought on by divorce stress. I let her think that, but Emma refuses to go camping. Won't even go on school trips that involve staying overnight in cabins. She has a nightlight in her room, which is fine. I've got one too, if I'm being honest. Sometimes, late at night, I'll catch Emma standing at her bedroom window, looking out into our backyard, just standing there, perfectly still, staring into the dark. What are you looking at, honey? I'll ask. Nothing, she always says. Just looking. But last month she said something that still keeps me awake. I'd found her at the window again, 3 in the morning, just staring out into the yard. Emma, you okay? She didn't turn around. Remember, Sarah, Dad? My blood went cold. Yeah, honey, I remember. She's not mad anymore. She forgave us for leaving. Emma smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She said she understands we were scared. She said she'll wait. Wait for what? Emma finally turned to look at me. Until I'm ready. I installed a privacy fence the next week. 8 feet tall, solid cedar. No gaps. Cost me $4,000 I didn't really have. I also installed motion sensor lights all around the yard. And cameras. 6 of them. Emma asked why we needed all that security. Just being careful. I told her. She nodded and went back to her room. But I caught her at the window again that night, waving at something I couldn't see. Here's what I've learned. What I know to be true, even though I can't prove it to anyone who wasn't there. There are things that live in the spaces between wilderness and civilization. Things that have been there long before we built our cities and highways and power lines. They've watched us for generations, learning how we move and speak and interact. They've gotten good at copying us. Almost perfect. Almost. There's always something wrong. Always something off. The voice is too flat. The movements are too mechanical. The face doesn't express emotion correctly. The eyes reflect light wrong. The teeth are too numerous or too sharp or too uniform. And if you notice those details, if that little voice in your head says something's wrong, you listen to it. You don't rationalize it away. You don't tell yourself you're being paranoid or stupid or overly cautious. That voice is older than civilization. It's the voice that kept your ancestors alive when things with teeth came out of the dark. It's evolution's greatest gift. The ability to recognize a predator even when it's wearing a friendly face. These things, whatever they are, they're patient. They'll watch for days, weeks, learning your patterns. They'll approach through your children because children are trusting, children believe, and children follow. If your kid starts talking about an imaginary friend that only visits at night, pay attention. If they say the friend knows things nobody should know, your name, your history, your family secrets, that's not imagination. That's something that's been watching you. If they describe the friend's appearance and something feels wrong about it, the proportions too long, the movements too stiff, the eyes the wrong color, believe them. Children see what adults have trained themselves not to see. And if that friend ever asks your child to go somewhere alone with them, especially at night, especially into the wilderness, you pack up immediately. You don't wait for proof. You don't try to rationalize it. You just leave, because some things that live in the desert have been copying us for so long they almost got it right. Almost. They're patient enough to keep trying, and they're hungry enough to wait for you to make a mistake. The only real protection is that instinct, that feeling in your gut that says something's wrong. Don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. Don't convince yourself you're overreacting. Your ancestors survived because they listened to that voice. Honor their memory. Listen to yours. And if something out there knows your name, your history, your family, and you never told it those things, that's not a friend. That's something that's been watching you a lot longer than you've been watching it. I want to hear from you. If you've experienced something like this, if you've had that feeling of being watched in the wilderness, if your kid ever talked about a friend who knew things, I need to know I'm not alone in this. Drop a comment below. Share your story. Maybe together we can piece together what these things are and how to protect ourselves from them. And if this story resonated with you, if it gave you that feeling of recognition, like maybe you felt watched too, like maybe you've noticed something wrong about someone but couldn't put your finger on what, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. I've got more stories like this, more warnings that might keep you safe out there, because the wilderness is beautiful. I want you to experience it. I want you to camp and hike and explore, but I also want you to come home safe. The desert isn't empty. The forests aren't vacant, and not everything that smiles at your children is a friend. Stay safe out there. Trust your instincts, and keep your kids close.